Hello and welcome to the show. Welcome back. Today, I wanted to share a story that happened with one of my clients that I'm working with. And she had some big aha moments during our conversation. And I thought that what she realized may resonate with some of you and may help you in your own home. So I wanted to share it here with you. This mom wanted, on a particular afternoon, her two kids were playing nicely with each other. And so she decided that she wanted to take this opportunity, this quiet moment in time, to go and play her guitar, which she enjoys doing. It's one of her pieces of self-care. It's one of her things that she likes to do that brings her joy. And so she went off to play her music. It wasn't 3 minutes later when suddenly her girls were fighting and one was crying and they weren't getting along. And so she went back into the other room to see what was going on, and she tried to resolve the conflict, diffuse the conflict. And she went back to try to play the guitar. 2 minutes later, they're fighting again. She has to go back to the guitar. 2 minutes later, they're fighting again. And each time she has to go back in, she's getting more and more and more irritated and more frustrated. And when she was telling me this, she was aware, kind of aware, but then she became more aware as we talked about it, that she had an agenda. She had an agenda. I want to play my guitar. And each time she was not able to meet her agenda, she resisted. And the resistance and the frustration and the resentment towards her kids grew larger and larger each time she got interrupted. And so then she got frustrated with her kids, and so she was trying to work out where it went wrong. At some point, she sang a song. She made up a song on the spot about wanting to play her guitar, but they kept fighting and she couldn't sing her song. And she brought a lot of levity and humor to the situation and helped to diffuse it. And so that was a great idea, very, very creative on her part. But overall, it still didn't end up the way that she was hoping. And so she ended up finally being very frustrated and giving up on the guitar, playing the guitar that day. And so she wanted to talk through to see what she could have done differently or where it went wrong or whatever. And I helped her to see that she was attached to her agenda of wanting to play the guitar. And a lot of times siblings fight because they're trying to get our attention. So maybe they didn't want her leaving the room to go do her own thing. They actually wanted her in there with them, playing or monitoring them or dealing with them in some way, shape, or form. And so her attachment to trying to hold on to her agenda just caused her to grow more and more resentful and frustrated. And so then she was feeling like their behavior was making her angry. And I reminded her that no one can control our behavior or our feelings. No one can control how we feel. Only we control that, actually. And so it's not really that they were making her angry with their behavior. They were just doing what they were doing, whether it was vying for her attention or whether it was some other reason that they weren't getting along in that moment. They were just being themselves and doing their thing. They weren't intentionally setting out trying to ruin her ability to do what she wanted to do. So the first thing for her was to recognize that she was holding on for dear life overly attached to her agenda. And then the second thing that was important for her to understand is that she was kind of blaming her kids for, quote unquote, making her angry. And that's not actually accurate. They were doing their own thing, and she allowed herself to become angry because she was attached to her agenda. And that's why it all happened in the first place. And so if she had been able to release her attachment to her agenda of wanting to play the guitar, even if she didn't want to release it, even if she didn't really want to not play the guitar, if she was able to kind of say, well, darn it, I thought I had this pocket of time that they were going to play nicely. They had been playing nicely together, and I was going to sneak in a little extra time for myself. Darn it, that's not going to work, because clearly they can't handle that at the moment, and I need to be here and give them my attention. If she had been able to do that, she wouldn't have been angry. So really it was her own choices and her own attachments that was making her angry, and not her kids. So I know I have fallen into the trap more often years ago before I did all this inner work. But still, from time to time, I catch myself falling into the trap of saying, you're making me angry. You're frustrating me. And that's actually not true. It's that I'm allowing myself to become frustrated by whatever's happening in the moment. It's actually me. It's my fault. It's my responsibility. And it's my job to figure out how to unwind that and get myself through it. It's not my kids' fault. It's not their responsibility. It's only mine. Now, they can choose to change their behavior or do whatever they're going to do, but my emotions are my responsibility. That's the big message that I want to share with you and leave you with. Because when we come at our kids and blame them for causing us to be angry or frustrated or disappointed or whatever, in a case like this one that I'm sharing with you, it puts a really heavy burden on them, almost as if they're responsible for our feelings or our behavior. And really, that's not true. They're responsible for their own feelings and their own behavior, just like we're responsible for our feelings and our behavior. And so once she understood that, she saw exactly where she did a good job in trying to be humorous and bring levity with singing the song, which definitely helped her and her kids navigate through that. So she made some good decisions and she handled things well, but then she could also see where ultimately she made choices or found herself in an unconscious pattern that prevented her from being able to kind of work through that without feeling so angry and frustrated. So hopefully this gives you some kind of insights into a trouble spot you may have had or may be having with your child at home, and gives you an idea of how you can work through it differently next time. So that wraps up today's show. I hope that wherever you are in this world, you make it a fabulous day for yourself.